Let me set the scene. It's Detroit, late 1970 seconds. The air's thick with ambition, and the Motown sound rules the world. Out of this electric atmosphere emerges DeBarge, a young man whose falsetto could melt even the frostiest Midwestern morning. Now, maybe you're thinking, there have been plenty of talented singers at Motown, right? Sure. But Elle's voice? That's what sound engineers call a sonic signature, as unmistakable as a fingerprint on vinyl. His arrival wasn't just another new artist at the label, it was more like a ripple in the fabric of soul music itself. And here's the twist. Even before he recorded a note, industry insiders buzzed that he was destined for legendary status. Imagine the pressure walking into Studio A with Smokey Robinson's shadow on the wall and still daring to sing your own song. Okay, quick pop quiz. What do you get when you combine a 5-octave range with the emotional punch of gospel? Answer: DeBarge. His falsetto wasn't just high, it was, technically, an example of vocal tessitura, meaning he could hover in those sweet spots that make your heart skip. Now, a classic Motown engineer once told me, Elle's voice didn't need reverb, it created its own atmosphere. That's not studio myth, that's the magic of overtone harmonics, the subtle echoes that give a singer's tone that dreamy shimmer. Have you ever tried singing along to All This Love and realized your dog's the only one still listening? Yeah, me too. Elle's way up there for a reason. But remember, what sounds effortless often hides years of sweat and broken piano keys. Let's talk family. Ever heard of a sibling rivalry where everyone's a prodigy? Welcome to the DeBarge household. Elle wasn't just a solo artist, he was the focal point in a constellation of gifted brothers and sisters, each with their own rhythm and blues credentials. Music theorists call groups like this a kinship ensemble, where genetic harmony meets practice groove. But let's get real. Growing up jamming together sounds fun, right? Now imagine sharing a bathroom, a tour bus, and the spotlight. That's a recipe for either magic or mayhem. For the DeBarges, it was often both. So next time you hear those lush harmonies on Rhythm of the Night, picture all those voices, trained in the same living room, blending perfectly despite a pinch of sibling drama. Now, Motown, let's give credit where it's due. For Elle, landing there was a dream, a launching pad straight to stardom. But here's a shocker. Being part of a music empire isn't always a fairy tale. Think of it as a creative paradox. The very structure that elevates you can also confine you. Motown's legendary assembly line approach meant hitmakers everywhere, but it also meant tight reins on creative control. Just sing the song, Elle, they'd say. But what if the song in your heart isn't the one on the studio sheet? Here's a little analogy. Imagine being handed a Ferrari, then told you can only drive it in first gear. That's the bittersweet reality Elle faced. Let's get personal. For many artists, the chance to write your own material is sacred, a true act of self-expression, what psychologists call creative agency. For Elle, though, this was a battleground. Motown had songwriters for days, so they weren't exactly handing out blank notebooks. Now you might be thinking, why not just sneak a few songs in? I'll tell you, labels had a stranglehold on publishing rights, meaning any melody Elle dreamed up in his spare time was often shelved or reshaped beyond recognition. The songs that did get out, those were hard-won victories. So, next time you hum, Time Will Reveal, remember, that's not just a hit, it's a little slice of Elle's soul that managed to break free. Ever wonder how many songs never made it past the demo tape? For Elle DeBarge, the answer is tragically a lot. This is what music historians call cultural attrition, the loss of potential masterpieces before they even reach the public. Let me paint you a picture. Elle, alone at a piano, fingers brushing ivory, a tune forming only to be told it didn't fit the Motown mold. Each unwritten song is a story untold, a message in a bottle that never reaches shore. And that's not just a loss for Elle, but for every fan who needed to hear those words. It's like finding out there's a lost Michelangelo under a tarp somewhere. We'll always wonder what could have been. Here's the eternal tug of war, creative control versus commercial success. In music biz jargon, this is called the art-commerce dichotomy. Motown's formula churned out hits, sure, but often at the cost of individual artistry. Imagine being told your instincts are worth less than a focus group's opinion. Ever had a boss say, "That's a great idea, but let's play it safe"? Same vibe in the studio, except the stakes were global. Elle wanted authenticity. Motown wanted chart toppers. And sometimes the only way to stay in the game is to play by someone else's rules. But the real legends, they leave their fingerprints on every note, no matter who's calling the shots. Let's be honest, the music industry chews up even the toughest souls. But DeBarge, he showed what psychologists call grit resilience, bouncing back every time the odds piled up. There's a beautiful irony here. The same system that tried to clip his wings made him fight harder for every moment of flight. Now, you might ask, how did he stay motivated? Here's the secret. For Elle, it was never just about fame. It was about the joy of performing, the electricity of a live stage, the connection with fans. And look, no matter how many times the world tried to dim his shine, that joy kept radiating. Let's talk partnerships. When Motown and DeBarge joined forces, it was textbook synergistic fusion, the whole greater than the sum of its parts. But synergy can cut both ways. Sometimes you get alchemy, other times creative friction. For Elle, collaborating meant learning to compromise, trading some personal vision for a shot at musical immortality. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't that just how showbiz works? Sure, but every duet, every group session was a dance between freedom and formula. And yet, despite the challenges, some of the most magical moments in Elle's career were born from this very tension. Here's where it all comes full circle: the legacy. Industry folks call this your artistic footprint. Elle's is undeniable. Despite the scar tissue of creative battles, his music endures, inspiring generations of vocalists and songwriters. Think about it. Every time a new artist belts out a high note or pens a love song with emotional honesty, there's a little echo of Elle in there. His story isn't just about hits and hardships. It's a lesson in resilience and the price of authenticity. The real legacy? Not just the songs we know, but the example he set. Never let anyone silence your truth. So, what's the takeaway? In the age of streaming and viral trends, creative freedom is more important than ever. That's the principle of artistic autonomy. DeBarge's journey reminds us how costly it is when labels or gatekeepers put artists in a box. If you're an aspiring musician out there, take note. Your voice matters. Don't let anyone else define your narrative. And for the rest of us, let's champion true artistry, celebrate authenticity, and make sure the next generation's unwritten melodies don't stay silent. Because if there's one thing Elle's Odyssey teaches, it's this: soulful stories deserve to be heard in all their glory.